This episode is brought to you by Camilla Najat with Exit Realty Metro.
Camilla Najat is an experienced real estate agent who prides herself in finding the perfect home for her clients. Camilla can help you with a comparative market analysis to help determine the value of your home if you're planning on selling, or help you determine the going rate for the neighborhood you're moving into. She can also work with you at your pace.
You can reach Camilla by calling 902-880-8429 or email camilla@exitmetro.ca.
Also, you can find her on Facebook at Camilla Najat, Exit Realty Metro. This is Matt Conrad.
And this is Mike Tobin.
Welcome to the Afternoon Pint.
This week we speak with Laura Warren. Laura is a psychic medium who helps people communicate with their lost loved ones and helps predict people's outcomes through a connection to the spirit world. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome.
Welcome. Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers. There we go. Should we do a retake of that cheers?
Yeah, let's do
That
a
one
retake
sounded
of
a
the
little. We'll do one more. Welcome.
Thank you so
there we
much.
go. Welcome to the Afternoon
Cheers.
Pint.
Yes, welcome. So it's Matt Conrad, Mike Tobin,
Hello.
and today we have Laura Warren. So I'm pretty excited about this episode. Actually, I reached out to Laura. I've known Laura a long time, but like we weren't in the same like age range of school and all that stuff. But I've known her a long time because we can say grew up together, same community and all that stuff. So, but what's really cool is I think Laura has a really cool story to tell. So that's kind of why we want to have her on here. And I can't think of anything that might be more interesting than what you do. So yeah.
Well, thank you.
So why don't you introduce yourself, Laura?
My name's Laura Warren. I'm a psychic medium. I've been practicing for about 17 years. So I'm getting like into the old lady phase of readings because a lot of people don't last this long.
Why?
I'm not sure. I guess there's a lot of reasons. Your life kind of changes and shifts. A lot of people just find it doesn't fit them anymore. But my life has kind of changed and shifted towards it. So it just seems to keep opening up new doors for me. So I'm going to stick with it as long as it feels good.
Okay. How did you get into this in the first place?
Well, it's funny because, like Matt said, he's known me a long time, but a lot of people, they don't really realize that I've been doing this or doing it this long. So I started out just thinking that I really had to have a career, you know, and in high school, I did well. I had a lot of push to go to university, and I wanted to. So I pushed my way through. I ended up with 2 degrees and was teaching, public school teaching. And I just had this pull always to paranormal activity, paranormal stuff. Like I just wanted to absorb all that information.
Like in high school, were you into like ghost stories? Like just kind of were like a little background? Like when you were a kid, like were you always kind of into the supernatural
like just really
stuff?
drawn to it, even though it really wasn't like approved, like it really wasn't allowed. But I was really drawn to like Bigfoot, on all the stories of like Yetis and ghosts and aliens and everything. And I read things when I could. I kind of got pulled towards kind of more like Wiccan kind of ideas for a while. And I'd go to chapters and I'd like read the books in chapters and leave them there because I wasn't allowed to buy them and bring them home.
Just a little bit of feedback. So because Laura and I both grew up in a small town, we were raised Roman Catholic. So there's and that a lot of anything of that nature is like no kind of thing, right?
Well, it certainly was at the time.
Yeah.
I think things have shifted quite a bit.
I think so too, because I have some people who are still practicing Catholics, and when I told them I was having you on the show, they were like, "Ooh, right?" So, yeah.
Well, it's funny because some of the people that first approached me that knew me when they knew I was doing readings, they would talk about I think it's called the eccentrics, but it's like there's a group of Catholics that actually they can travel around and they do touch healing and they give messages and stuff. So people kind of put me in that box for a little while, and that wasn't where I was meant to be anyway. But I met somebody in university who was really intuitive, and the two of us found out we loved this stuff kind of together. We were both teaching. And it was mostly her idea because I was really scared to start out and kind of do readings for people and get into this work. So she was like, no, like, you're just as intuitive as me. We should do this together.
Right.
And she was from Jamaica, and she had a really heavy accent. So it actually worked in her favor, too, to have me with her in Nova Scotia to help explain, you know, to people sometimes what she was trying to tell them. So the two of us did readings together for 8 years in tandem. So if somebody came to see us, they get both of us. And we did a lot of stuff together. We traveled to Jamaica. We traveled all over Canada, different places, did things. And she taught me a lot about how she thought about spiritualism. And I was like a sponge. I was just reading books like crazy and absorbing information. So the whole getting into readings was really to her credit. Like, she pushed me to start reading people. And it opened up this whole world when I realized that everything was just energy and vibration. And then I had spirit talking to me. I had, you know, people's angels or guides or even their pets that passed away. And it just, that's the best way I can explain it. It's just, once I started, I had the desire and I was studying and meditating. It just, the whole world just opened up to me.
So you opened yourself up essentially and kind of...
Like I gave permission, I had the desire, I did the work, and I continue like every day to do the work and trying to be better at my craft all the time.
Did you notice anything when you were like younger though, like certain things that would stick out or maybe like anything like that? Because you always, I know it's cliche, but like there's things that you like the 7-year-old that kind of creeps you out a little bit because they're talking to the wall or something like that, right? Like,
well, I always thought like if I grew up in the UK or something, that somebody would have put me in one of those schools, like those spiritual schools, like Harry Potter or something, you know? But yeah, I did have a lot of intuition about people. Right. Like I would know if somebody was sick or if somebody could be trusted or not. I often had what at the time I didn't know what it was, but I would hear like talking or I'd hear sounds almost. And I didn't know what they were, but once I got older and I started to meditate, it kind of tuned into like voices. Okay. But at first it was kind of sounds with feelings. And I had a lot of dreams.
This whole like thing, like, and I'm just asking, like, does it kind of call you in a way? Like you're just kind of like, you're attracted to some mysterious force or some mysterious entity that like you feel like, I don't know, something's kind of calling you towards it?
Yeah, I think anything you do in life, you have to be called to do it. I feel like all of us, kind of like at the soul level, we have a desire to do something or a desire to complete a task or, you know, reach a goal. And I feel that comes right from the soul. And so this just happens to be my calling. But, you know, somebody else's calling might be to be a mortgage broker or a doctor or something. Sure. But this just ended up to be mine.
So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what's funny because Mike and I are both in insurance, and the joke in insurance is that nobody's ever called to do this. We fall into this profession kind of thing. But it's like nobody grows up thinking, I want to be a more, you know, insurance guy kind of thing.
Well, I know that. That's it. I didn't think I was going to be a psychic medium. I had a long list of other things I wanted to do, but this wasn't really on the list. And I've really felt that it's been quite unexpected, I guess, the way that my life has kind of evolved, but I'm really happy. And I'm just an example of somebody who, if you follow what you really want to do, that it can work out.
So the one thing that I actually wanted, excuse my ignorance, because you're saying psychic medium, and I always thought a psychic and a medium were two different things. Yeah. So maybe break that down for us.
Yeah. So it depends who you talk to. Like everybody has a different kind of idea of what that is. They kind of operate separately, but in my head, it operates together. So I have to tell people that I do both. That's how I kind of feel like that's the best description of my work. Right. But if you talk to somebody who's just a medium, they absolutely will say it's a totally different process than being psychic. And a psychic would say probably the same thing.
So you're doing both.
Yeah. Okay. So the psychic part is more like I can read somebody's energy field. I can see maybe if they've had
just back up to the Psychics for Dummies here. Energy field.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm like, what does that mean?
every person has their own energy that
Okay.
they carry with
Like an
them.
aura.
So like an aura, like around your body,
Sure.
inside your body. you know.
Okay.
So energy at the base is how we all function and run. Otherwise, like we're just wearing the meat suits,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, yeah, okay.
And nothing runs the meat suit if there's no energy in
Right.
it. If your consciousness isn't
Right.
in there, right? So there's markers in the energy field that I've learned how to see and read, and
Okay.
they symbolize certain things about a person. So I can see if they've had trouble with something, a relationship at work, or if something's happened in the past, a big accident, a trauma. Sometimes I see future things a little bit different because somebody could make different choices and change their own future. So it's not set in stone when there's future
So that's
markers.
that's actually something we could just kind of sidestep there, because that's I think that's a huge kind of like misconception that people have when it comes to psychics. They're like, well, tell me what the lotto numbers are, this
Yeah.
whatever, right? And
Oh, I wish I had them.
exactly, right? But there's still free will that's involved in like telling the future, essentially,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah,
if my
well-
understanding is correct.
See, I use my discretion too because I do group stuff, and I don't feel like everything is appropriate, for every situation. So
Right.
there are some people you can go see and they will tell you all the horror and all the dirty and the guts and the fear. And I just never felt like that was my place. My place is to empower people and inspire them with their journey and their experiences rather than pull them down and scare them. I don't think
have
that's
you
right.
ever felt like you needed to do that, maybe privately?
Yeah. So when I'm seeing a group of people, I'm known for this. Often tell people at the beginning, like, if I need to talk to you aside, I will. I'll just
Okay.
take you aside and tell you. So it happens quite often. There might be somebody in the group that I just kind of say, I think I'll talk to you after privately. Yeah.
Have you ever refused to do someone's reading?
No. I trust the universe that people are sent to me,
So, the reason I ask is like my mother has a really weird story where she, like a friend of hers, they went to go see a psychic, and they traveled a little bit of a drive up to see them as a group, and they were all going to get this reading, and the psychic refused to do hers.
Wow.
And she said, no, like, I want you to, like,
Yeah.
if it's bad news, tell me, whatever. And she wrote something in an envelope and gave it to her. And they opened it on the car ride home. And it said, I see no future. And she got in a car accident and died on the way home.
Seriously.
Ask my mother
That's
next time you see her.
crazy.
Ask my mother next time you see her.
Oh
Seriously.
my God.
So that's why I always wonder, because it's like,
That's like
I never hear stories like that. And then my mother has one. I'm
that's
like,
like
holy smokes.
that's like one of those Final Destination movies.
Seriously.
man.
Yeah. So it's not that it's happened to me to that extreme.
Okay.
But I have met people. I would never single somebody out and not read them.
Right.
But I might say to them, like, for whatever reason, today is not the day. Like,
Right.
the energy doesn't line up. But I probably would dress it up nicer than that.
Yeah.
Because whatever happens to that person is, it's between them and the universe. Has
Fair
nothing
enough,
to do
yeah.
with me, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I wouldn't want to upset somebody. That's really not my bag.
Right.
Yeah, but I understand when that can happen, and some psychics are so like on point. They are really trained in names and telephone numbers and addresses, and listen, I tip my hat to them. But my skill is more in the personal development field, inspiring people and empowering them. But there's a ton of psychic stuff that always comes through anyway, and I can't stop that. But, yeah.
So as you were saying, so the psychic ability and then the medium ability are two different, I guess, exercises. When it comes to the psychic stuff, so let's, I guess, go back again to the free will stuff. So when you kind of give any type of like futuristic type of things, it's like this. Do you feel that obviously could impact what actually happens? Do you feel like if you tell them now that like it's not going to happen, or it could be a self-fulfilling prophecy or anything like that? Like,
I guess there's always that chance, but because I'm working from a place for the highest good for the person.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that whatever comes through is there to help guide them instead of take them off their path.
Okay.
But yeah, I guess that's like, it's kind of like part of the agreement, you know, when somebody signs up, they want a reading, you know, they have an intention. Everybody does. So they have this intention for what they want. They give their permission because they're booking the reading. So that's kind of, some of that stuff can happen, but I feel like my work is to tell them, these are all the options. These are like this is like your life plan. And I always explain it like a tree. So we all have these life plans that we come here with, but they're not exactly set in stone the way we think they are. It looks sort of like the branches of a tree. And you know how there's big branches and smaller and smaller and smaller, but every choice that you make is already measured and predetermined, has a predetermined result. So although our blueprints are so complicated that, you know, you look at the top of a tree, there's millions of branches up there and all these choices you can make, different roads you can take, but every result of every choice is already planned.
That's not really any different than like when you get into like quantum science and stuff like that, right? Where you talk about like your decision and like there's lots of scientists that'll say like you have infinite, whatever, a million choices in front of you. For like what we do right now, I have a million choices in front of me of what I can do. And there's that stem and then it branches off kind of thing based on the decision that I make.
Yeah.
Do you think that psychic abilities to talk to folks in other dimensions could be somewhat related to quantum physics? Like when you look at like, I saw that movie Interstellar, and I gotta say, I don't know if anyone listening ever saw Interstellar, but it's one of my absolute favorite friggin' movies. Just because I love it when I like get through a movie and I'm getting near the end and I'm like, oh my god, my brain, like you know, it's like
gonna explode.
It was so cool, and when I saw, so I'm going to spoil this movie. So if you haven't seen Interstellar, turn this off for about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Basically, Matthew McConaughey's character near the end of the movie goes into a black hole in outer space, and he's tapping on a bookshelf, and he's knocking books off the shelf onto the floor to communicate to his daughter.
But communicating to his daughter like 30 years ago.
30 years ago in time, in another plane of existence. And that all sounds very super crazy. But if you learn and listen to a lot about what they think can happen in black holes and this theory against the fifth dimension, I mean, it becomes plausible, right? Like it becomes actually plausible that this stuff can happen. And I'm a born skeptic in absolutely everything in the world. I'm terrible. But you know, this movie got me, and I was like, holy smokes.
But you know what? Yeah. That's the thing. I love skeptics.
Yeah.
You know why? Because a true skeptic is somebody that wants information.
Me, 100%.
A true skeptic is somebody.
I'm not
what I was going to ask.
I don't condemn, and I don't. And I'm actually. I love making sure people believe what they want to believe that makes them happy, because I think it's a positive thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you choose religion, I don't think that's a thing that you should be condemned for. I think that's a brave thing.
Yeah.
Especially today, the world changes and evolves, so it's harder and harder for you to study and for you to appreciate a scripture or something that's you know. Not some people are laughing at you, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, same as your career. Like, I mean, in some senses, like psychics, mediums, some people are probably very highly doubting it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, and just saying that's a load
And you know
of malarkey.
what? There are
right?
so many people in the world and so many different belief systems. I'm okay with all of it.
Yeah.
Because I know how I feel, right?
Super relaxed about the way I believe that the world works, or, you know, and it's pretty grim.
Yeah.
But, I mean, at the same time, I can appreciate anyone that believes in what they believe.
Yeah.
Right?
So there's so much that
as long
I
as it
want
doesn't
on-
hurt
I
nobody.
know.
There's so much I want to
You're
unpack
like,
there.
you're like
Oh my!
crawling.
I got so much stuff to.
Here you go.
So here's the thing. So I guess my one question to you is like, how do you handle skeptics? You say you love skeptics.
I love
So
skeptics.
how do you handle them?
You know what? I love them because a true skeptic, and sometimes I do start like readings if I feel like the person's a little resistant.
Right.
I will explain. Skeptics are people that want information, and they are open to the ability to change their mind. Because a true skeptic is actually somebody who's like an investigator, a researcher. They soak up information and then they balance out the information that they have.
That's fair.
And then they kind of make a decision how they feel about that subject. So often skeptics, to me, now people that are closed off and they say they're a skeptic, they're, that's not a true skeptic. They're just closed off.
They made their mind up. Yeah.
Right. So true skeptics are usually people, they take in all the information, they weigh it out, they make a decision, how they feel about it. And I'm okay with whatever decision they make because it's okay for them.
Right.
So my part of my job is to open up my channel, deliver spirit messages. I can't control how they land with people exactly. I can't control how they think.
Yeah.
But I will give them the message. I will help them understand it. And a lot of times people are perfectly okay with that, even if they're skeptic. They take it, they feel it in their body. And that's what I usually tell people when you have a reading. You have to listen and let it sink in and decide how you feel, because the words resonate with people. And they know how they feel about it. I could talk to you and say something to you that was like very general to somebody else. But maybe for you, it's very specific and it hits you in the heart and you go, oh my God, like, yeah, that is true. So I guess my thing is I see that light bulb moment with a lot of skeptics and it makes me feel like they don't have to believe in me, but at least maybe they'll leave believing in something bigger than themselves.
Sure.
Yeah, and you know what? I think I really sit in that realm of gray, because I think I'm a little bit of a skeptic on some things, but I love spirituality. I think spirituality, faith, and science can exist all in the same world. But I like to be a bit of a skeptic kind of thing. I go back and forth. Just hearing a lot of stories even just about you and what you've kind of done for people and with people and everything. And I've seen every once in a while you see on Facebook, I'm looking for a medium. Anyone have any suggestions? And my sentence is always the exact same. It's always, I don't know if I believe this stuff, but
but I know this person.
I know Laura, and everyone who sees her loves it.
Thank you for plugging
No
me, by
problem.
the way.
No problem.
That's
right?
awesome.
But it's it's just one of those things where it's and some people get all bent out of shape and stuff like that, which is my next question. But because some people get bent out of shape and they're like, why would you waste your money? Blah blah blah. And my response back to those people is simply one of two things: either you believe it, and if it helps you, who cares?
Right.
Money worth spent.
Right.
Second of all, if you don't believe it and you think it's just entertainment, well, you pay money to go see a movie. I spend $100 for my wife and I to go see a movie.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
So again, no harm, no foul. So why do people hate that? So
before you jump into your next question,
go ahead.
Before you jump into your next question, okay. So I would love to know. You have to respect all of your clients' confidentiality, 100%.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I would just love to hear a story from you about a time, if you could think about it and take a moment to kind of reflect on it. But where you felt someone was truly transformed from an experience to come to see you, whether they were a skeptic or not. Somebody came down, sat down with you, and then you changed their whole kind of perspective on things.
Yeah, so I used to do a lot of in-person readings. We kind of switched over COVID, couldn't see people in person anymore. But before that, I had this gentleman come to the house for a reading, and he was here on vacation from Newfoundland. So he was only here for a short amount of time. He wanted to squeeze in. I did get him in. But when he came, I could tell he was man's man. He walked in the door, he literally had his arms crossed right away. If he could cross his legs and his arms and his fingers and his toes, he was blocked, right? He did not want to hear a thing from me.
This isn't me you're talking about. This is somebody else.
Somebody else, absolutely.
Okay.
And then I think his wife asked him to come, and he really wasn't sure about it, but his wife was a believer. So I started to talk to him about his mom. And there was a few details that were pulled forward that really hit him hard. And I won't remember the specifics now. I just remember his face, because he totally unraveled right in front of me. His arms, he let go, he relaxed. He looked at me and he said, "That's my mom." That is my mom. You're talking to my mom. And we talked for a little while, and then I told him his mom had brought up an accident that he had at work and that he almost lost his leg. And she said she had already passed at that point, but she said that she was making sure that the doctors saved his leg. Like she was working from spirit for him. And he said, his face kind of went white, and he said, he said, the doctors still don't understand how I got to keep my leg.
Huh. Weird.
So, and then we talked a little bit about his marriage, because there was something about hard to remember, but something about his wedding that was very specific that his mom wanted to bring up to say that she was so pleased for them, that they really are like in love, true love, and that they've lasted. They were here for some big anniversary, like 40 something years together or something. Yeah. And she was just really happy for them. But he left my house in tears, happy tears. And to watch a big, strong guy who doesn't even want to be there come in the house with a scowl on his face and everything crossed, and then leave a big pile of mush. That's why I do it.
Wow. And so that, I guess one thing, and you may not even have an answer for this, but do you find, because like I'm very open to the fact that this could very well be a thing, and but I also feel like there's probably a lot of people that they're taking advantage of this stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And do you find that like in the community, is there frustration with that?
There's a documentary right now on Miss Cleo. I haven't actually watched it all yet. Do you remember Miss Cleo?
Oh, everybody.
Call me now.
Oh my gosh, man! Like,
but like it's for me. Okay.
But I guess she was taking advantage of people. She got figured out or something. Yeah. I don't know the whole. I haven't honestly watched the documentary in its full. I watched a few minutes of it.
So with me, like I get frustrated like when I'm in insurance, and when insurance people do things that kind of like that give the insurance name a bad name, I get quite annoyed, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, go after their license, take their license away, make sure they can never practice it. You guys can't do that.
Yeah,
like,
no licensing here.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like I don't know, like how is there? I guess how's that feel? What's the community word? Like I don't know.
Is that a lot of people, or is that like a micro minority?
I think
people
there's
that are trying to do anything
honestly
vicious through this type of thing, because I think it takes a lot of humility to try to allow yourself to get into this type of profession in the first place.
Well, that's the thing. I think honestly, there's not a lot of. You're not going to see a lot of multi-million-dollar mediums. There's a very few that find a way to make it sort of in the entertainment industry and make a little bit more money or write a few books or whatever. But the most people are in this kind of work because they care about people and because they love people. Now there are red flags always. Like what I do when somebody comes to me and they say, this person, this intuitive or whatever told me this, and this is what it did to me. If it's something I feel is like unethical, then I'll go on my little YouTube channel and I'll make a video to explain like why this is wrong without specifics. I would never name the person. Right, yeah. But there is a little video on my YouTube channel, just red flags. Okay. Like when you're hiring a psychic or a medium or whatever, what are some things to look for? I have worked with people before that don't seem completely genuine. So what has happened to me over the years is I've developed this really good BS meter. So I know like who I can work with and who I can't. And I've kept my circle really small. The community in Halifax in particular is pretty good. Okay. Like I know some really, really decent healers, but just like anything, everybody's human. There's lots of stuff going on that shouldn't be happening. Lots of people in it for the wrong reasons. Lots of people, maybe not saying the right things because there's no specific school. Well, exactly, unless you're going to go to England and there are mediumship schools.
Is there? Wow.
Yeah, there are. Definitely. There's some different, you can even specialize in different things. So, no way. But we don't have that kind of thing here. There's no school to go to. Right. And so like originally when people asked me what I was, I'd say I'm a natural medium because between me and spirit, we had a relationship and I got trained that way. Right. I didn't take any, training.
But you did, though. You studied your butt off. You read a bunch of books. You kind of really immersed yourself into it.
It's not formal training.
Well,
right?
here's the thing. I have a science degree. So the bridge between my science mind and this
cool.
was...
Where'd you get your science degree at?
Mount St. Vincent.
Oh, awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
see, and I think that's where my world lies, is like in between the two. Like, that's why I like this, right? So,
well, this is the bridge between what I'm doing now and where I was quantum physics. So I studied as much as I could understand about quantum physics for a long time, because it helped me kind of meld the two things together.
Right.
I could understand that consciousness, spirit is energy. I could understand that if I knew how to tune in my brain to those signals, that I could hear spirit or hear people that needed to pass along a message. So I kind of feel like that's how it made sense to me. That's how, if I could train my brainwaves to connect like a radio station would, how you tune into a radio station. Yeah. If I could do that, then I felt like, well, why can't anybody talk to spirit? Anybody probably could if they practiced it. And
you believe that everyone, it's not an ability, it's something that you can actually like work on, kind of thing?
I believe anybody that's drawn to this work already has what they need to do it.
Okay.
But they might need to gain confidence. They might need to hone like some skills and that kind of thing. But if you have a desire to do this work, the desire is your signpost. Like that's your sign that you have whatever you need, to specialize in whatever area. Because there's tons of people out there doing energetic work that, they can put themselves in all kinds of categories, and has nothing to do with being like a medium necessarily, but there's lots of other areas that you could work in.
I mean, since I was a little kid, I've always been drawn to the supernatural. Find it fascinating.
Yeah.
You're a kid, so when you're a kid, you believe in everything. You believe in Santa Claus, right?
Yeah.
So you believe in everything. You're fascinated by things. Now, as I grow up and you learn sciences and stuff like that, it starts to shift a little bit. I become more of a skeptic, but then you also there's still that, I don't know, desire in you that's kind of like, well, there has to be something bigger,
oh my gosh.
Right? There has to be something bigger, right?
Especially once you have kids, you're like, you want your kids to believe in something bigger too. So it's just like this thing that starts opening up again. I feel like when we're kids, it's easy. Yeah. And then the world kind of teaches us things. We build up resistance and walls. But at some point, in order to really connect to everything that your life is and everything that you're meant to do here, you do have to open up on a spiritual level. You don't really have a choice anymore.
Yeah. And that's what I think is kind of, that's what I get at, trying to bridge that. And I'm still like, I don't know. I would, there's a part of me that, in my heart, it's like, I want to believe in ghosts, but then my head's like, come on, man, right? It's just one of those, I don't know, it's this constant battle that's within me.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, but I guess the next thing that's kind of leading into is like having this ability and having this do you feel like knowing this? Let's just, for anyone listening, let's just throw away the skepticism right now and just say, this is fact. And if fact, you have the answers to everyone's universe, essentially, in a lot of ways. Do you find that knowing what you know and discovering has it obviously it's changed you as a person, but if you're talking to people who are no longer with us, that obviously means there's an afterlife. Has that changed how you operate as a person?
Yeah.
Is that that's what everybody wants to know. Yeah. What's after this?
Yeah.
And you were saying I have the answer, right?
Well, I have some of the answers, I think.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Not all of them. After, I don't even know how many readings, years of readings, and I've been doing this full time for about 8-9 years, I'd say. I've learned that there's no such thing as death.
Yeah, okay. Interesting.
So we, obviously the body can't live forever, but the consciousness goes on and on and on. And so you can do many things in the afterlife. You can basically manifest whatever you want because it's all energy and your energy. So I've had spirit come and they have manifested sort of what they had in their physical life because that's what made them happiest and comfortable. But I find that that's sort of where they go. They just kind of manifest whatever makes them happiest. So if they want to, I just had a reading the other day, and the lady was super intelligent but eccentric, and she rolled into my consciousness on roller skates, and she had spiky hair and the leg warmers and the whole bit, and she was just like, this is me. And when I communicated that to the loved one, they were like, oh my God, that's totally her. That sounds exactly what she would be wanting to do in the afterlife, just partying, having fun, you know? So there is absolutely an afterlife, but we can't put our human ideals on what it looks like.
Okay.
So the human idea is like, okay, there's a heaven and you go over to this heaven and you operate like a human, and that's not what it's
Just
like
a bunch
at all.
of great selection of beer and
Yeah, just like,
But you know what, though, there's like science behind that as well, because I think it was Einstein that like, it's now accepted, but Einstein that basically said like energy can either be created or destroyed.
Right.
So it's either, if it goes away, if we go away, then that energy goes somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of essentially what you're saying. And we as humans, I think, like to put our human minds to like create heaven and hell and all this other stuff, right? And where like it could just be an afterlife,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't have to be, you know, these different dimensions, 7 layers of hell and all that other stuff. Unless you choose it. I do believe that you can potentially choose it.
yeah.
Like, that's
I've
my
never,
personal belief.
I've never like, I guess in the last recent years, I never really thought there was an afterlife. I never really thought like, I thought like, and about energy again. I mean, that's kind of when you stop manufacturing energy, whether it's coal or whether it's a human being, right? You know, that's it, right? I've always been kind of grim about that personally.
Yeah, but it turns into something.
Well,
It does. It's fact. It turns into something.
Well, the only
you
thing that
burn
comes
coal,
to
it turns into
mind
something.
when you're talking is I'd have to look up the exact number because I'm going to get this wrong, but they have weighed people before they die. So they'll weigh them before
Yeah.
they die and after they die, and the body is lighter, you know, like minutes later. So how is that possible?
well, they defecate usually during death. That's a big one. That's
probably-
something I learned about from my paramedic friends.
They're
It's like you
probably-
die, you poop your pants. I'm like, oh, that's terrible.
I imagine they're allowing for that. I would think.
I would think that they would, if they're scientifically looking into
I think
it.
they're like,
Okay.
But yeah, no, I understand what you're saying.
Sure, yeah.
And I probably would have, I could have even thought that way years ago.
I'm open to change.
but
100%.
but I think the thing is the sheer mass of experience I've had, and I am stubborn. I am one of the most stubborn people around. And literally, I feel like spirit had to pound it into my head that this was actually happening. And for many years, I needed so much validation and confirmation from spirit that this was real, that literally I'd get all these stupid messages like,
spirit is like an entity.
Yeah,
it's
I'm
not a
kind of-
person. It's like a force.
I'm kind of using spirit as a general term to explain people's passed on loved ones or, you know, energies around them that are helping them. So I'm just kind of using it as a general thing because it's every time you say passed on loved one, it's like passed on loved one. So I'm trying to short it. But no, I just feel like it's a lot for the human mind and consciousness to understand that there's so much that we can't understand. There's so much that doesn't make any sense, and it won't make sense in our human mind. The best way I can explain things is that I feel like we are a frequency or a vibration or an energy, and the physical body, once the physical body is done, that vibrational, you know, energy still exists, but not in the form that we as humans can perceive.
And I suppose that everyone in their life, I mean, me included, have, you know, woke up in the middle of the night, seen some weird shit and didn't know if their brain manufactured it or manifested it or if it was real in front of them or whatever, right? I mean, I got this one where I remember being in high school and like waking up, there'd be like a woman in like a tall dress, like looking down at me, it scared the hell out of me. But I was like, oh, that's a creepy nightmare. I'm okay. You know, and I would just kind of, you know, pack that up, realize that brain's playing tricks on me or whatever, right? And just kind of go away from that. But if you lean into that you could probably have an entirely different experience.
True. And I think we can say that sometimes the brain does play tricks on us. And sometimes we do experience sleep paralysis, where you would see things that don't actually make sense for your physical awake time, But sometimes it's more than that. And there's not really a one answer for anything. And that's what I've learned, I guess, on my path, is that there's no one answer to answer these questions. But I have so much trust in the spirit world now, because I've had so many people come to me and they want to talk to their, sister that passed or whatever. And over and over and over again, there are complete confirmations that that person is talking to me, because I can't know that they grew white flowers in their garden.
And like these people you meet, you don't know from a hole in the wall. They just kind of come to you.
Well, they'll make an appointment, but a lot of times I don't know them.
Yeah.
There's no, there's so many readings happening. There's no way I could even...
you just wouldn't have time.
I don't have time. I sometimes it used to happen in the very beginning. I'd walk into a restaurant and the server, just being at her table, I'd get all this feeling that I had to talk to them. And it happened once. Poor waitress at Smitty's. I told her,
Just unloaded on her.
Yeah, I said, your grandmother's here and she's carrying like flowers that look like
So
almost
this girl
a
was
bouquet.
doing her job.
She was doing her job. And here's me going, I'm going to read you right now.
I'd be like, get out of here.
Yeah, by the way, I don't do this much anymore because it really does freak people
It
out.
would, totally.
So she,
I
I
think
told her.
that is amazing, though.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't stop doing that, because
Yeah.
I would like to just screw with people. that
Well,
way.
I'll tell you that if it happens strongly, if there's a strong message,
Yeah.
I do ask the person's permission. If they say no, it's fine. But
Yeah.
if they want it, I'll tell them. But
Yeah.
this particular girl, I just told her, I said, can I tell you that your grandmother's in spirit standing behind you holding a bouquet to tell you that she was at your wedding, even though she had passed before your wedding.
Wow.
And she cried. She said, we moved the wedding up to try to get my grandmother there. And
geez.
my grandmother passed. So she said, that means a lot to me. But then she disappeared and she never came back to her table. And I think she was just like overcome,
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think when I was going out the door, I like saw a glimpse of her and I was like, are you sure you're okay?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But I've done it. The Fredericton Farmers Market walked up to somebody and said, your mother-in-law that passed away, she just wanted to tell me that she's okay, that you sold her house.
Wow.
And the lady was like, oh, we were wondering about that. We were wondering if she was okay with that. Thank you. So it happens like that sometimes, but I try not to do that as much because it does freak people out.
Okay, so I got like 4 questions in mind.
Four questions.
questions.
Okay, Matt, come on now. We're going to wrap this up soon.
Yeah, exactly. So, one, do you believe that there's like evil spirits, and have you ever interacted with them? This is 3 rapid fire. Do you believe that they exist? Have you ever interacted with them, and how do you handle it?
Okay. Whoa. Big questions.
Yeah.
Yes, I've interacted with them. I have this weird thing about me where I start to feel like a mother that's upset with them. So I'm sort of like, why are you doing this? It's inappropriate, or that it's hurting people or scaring people. Like, what's happening? Tell me what's going on. So I usually get some kind of story out of them. And if it's something I can settle for them or help them with, I will. But if not, there's universal laws that overpower whatever that entity wants.
Okay.
So we have these universal laws, which if you're like a yogi or some kind of guru, you probably would know them all off by heart. But I just know that spirit cannot interfere in somebody's safety and security. So if you're in your home and there is a spirit that is scaring you, it's up to the homeowner or somebody like me to come in and put their foot down and say, you can't do this because you're...
So you can do that? So if people have like a freaky thing going on in their house, you could come and help them out?
Right.
You had a TV show about this.
Yeah, so
Yes.
you're
Okay,
tapping
so
into...
There was a TV show, and she had a partner who actually recently passed away.
Yeah.
But they went and investigated these types of
Tell
things.
me a bit about that real quick.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So
Yeah.
just this might answer your questions too,
Yeah.
but the Halifax Club was a popular episode,
We were there last night.
right?
Yeah? Okay.
So there was a lot of different things going on there, but the main story was a lady who had been pushed out a window. And this was like probably, I think the club was founded 1830 something.
Okay, yeah.
So it was like, mid 1800s. So the story was that she was angry that everything that happened to her, and she was screaming in the club and haunting the club. So, some people might think like, oh my God, why is this spirit so scary? Why is the spirit still hanging around? Why are they intimidating us? They don't want us in certain rooms.
Window, they probably a little mad, right?
Well, nobody knew, like people knew some of the story, but they didn't know all of it. So she explained to me that she was taken from a small community by a gentleman who wanted to take her to the city, said, I'll give you a nice life, and so she, like a young person would fall in love with somebody who came to save them, right? So she went to the Halifax Club, but she didn't realize what she was in for, and she became like a lady of the night, basically. And she didn't like it. It wasn't what she wanted. And one of the men that wanted to sleep with her, he had a heart attack when they were involved. And when the police came, they blamed her, and they pushed her out the window.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
Okay.
So then they left her body in the street as an example to say, you can't do these kinds of things. But she actually came to me and said, this is all wrong. This is like all a misunderstanding. She said, I didn't set out to be like a Jezebel or like a mistress. That wasn't the idea. The idea was I was coming here to have a better life, and that's not what happened. So once we talked everything through and shared her story, I could feel her energy lift. Now, the tricky thing about this is that energy can leave imprints in places, so it's not the actual spirit anymore, but there's an imprint of uncomfortableness in certain parts of the Halifax Club because of lots of things that happened there.
Right.
So I believe she crossed over. I believe she left. But there may be still some icky energy hanging around the building because of other things.
Other shady.
Yeah, other
things
stuff that happened there, right?
Okay.
But as far as she was concerned, she got to tell her story. And then it almost like dissolved or resolved like her feelings around what happened. And she got to tell her story on a TV show. And
Amazing.
Then she got to leave because she was released from that pain.
Man, if you ever have anyone wants to tell you your story on this podcast and they want to come and hang out with us and tell their story, you please just come back.
So
sure,
in that sense, so
100.
that's a
100%.
person who's had that. So you wouldn't believe in like a demon or anything like that necessarily, or
I have encountered that, but the thing is that usually a demon, an evil entity, we'll say, is connected to the person as part of something personal that they're going through.
Right.
So very careful about this, because in the past, people will say somebody who's possessed is crazy.
Right.
And that's not necessarily what I see. What I see is the person has something they're holding on to, a personal trauma, a guilt, something that manifests itself into this terrible energy.
Okay.
So I have found the best thing to do is using my intuition in a way to say, I can feel like something happened to you, this trauma. So I think I can talk about this because it was long ago and I won't use names or anything. But I did have a lady call me years back. She had a demon in her home and it was terrorizing her and her kids. And so when I got there, I did a house cleansing. It didn't really leave. And she called me back. And I felt like I had to come back. I had told her that. When I went back, I had a different feeling. I said, you have a childhood trauma, a serious childhood trauma, and you haven't told your husband. And she said, yes. And I said, you're hiding it like there's something wrong with it. But you didn't do anything. It's not your fault. When you tell your husband, this thing will go away.
Huh.
And it did.
Wow. Okay.
So here's the thing. There are so many manifestations of energy, and you like paranormal stuff, so you'll like this too. There are places that have been investigated that there's a story built around a character. So maybe an old hotel, an old hospital, something.
Yeah, like the Algonquin. Stuff
Right.
Like that, right.
So the community creates like the story, and there could be nothing legit about that story. Like there's no truth in it. There's no actual person that looked like that or did that.
Nothing historical happened.
But it's like folklore, right?
Yeah.
But so many people talk about it, that it actually can create the feeling, energy, image
okay.
of that entity, even though the entity is not real, because that's the power of our mind.
Right.
We can manifest things into being. And so if enough people are thinking the same thing, they can manifest something, but there's no spirit connection to that thing. It's not a real thing. So it takes somebody who is in tune enough to know whether that is like, that's a spirit of a person or that's just energy that's been all like kind of mashed together.
Right.
And the energy is affecting people because they believe in it and they feel it. So there's a whole bunch of dynamics there. And when I did the TV show, we had this pretty big discussion about dealing with people that have like possessions and stuff, because there is this idea that, you know, it's rooted in the person, and you can't blame it on the person, but I do feel like there's usually a personal issue, something in their life that's gone wrong, that actually can draw that energy in and create that experience for them.
Okay. So, yeah, and I know we got to wrap up kind of soon because we don't want to go run too long, but I do have a few more questions. So,
well, you know, I can come back.
That's true. But when it comes to selecting, I know people will come to you and they'll want to talk to someone specific, but like, do you get that choice, or does like it's someone who comes and says like, "Hey, me, I want to talk," or like? How do you control that? Like, if I come to you and say, like, I want to talk to my grandfather, is it possible that he's like, nah?
It's anything's
I'd
possible.
Be a no. Like, if I was dead and I had the option you called me, I'm like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I mean, being dead, I'd be happy. Leave me the
I haven't
alone.
talked to anybody in 20 years, but I'm okay. Yeah. No, I can't say that it hasn't happened. There are some people, because your personality is still the same. So if spirit comes forward and they were shy in life, that may cross over and they may be like, you know what, I really don't want to talk about this. But it very rarely, it's happened where somebody will ask about somebody who wasn't that close to them. And maybe there was a dramatic piece to their life or passing. So I had an aunt ask about their niece's husband that passed, and wanted the husband to come through and explain what happened to him. And he said to her, I'm talking to my wife first.
Oh.
He said, I don't want to talk to you until I talk to my wife.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that's like a respect thing, right? Like he was like, why would I talk to her aunt when I haven't even gotten to talk to her about what happened yet?
Yeah.
And I
sounds very practical.
Totally would respect that, you know, like that's that. And it's rare, but it happens. And that would be kind of the situation where it would happen, where the spirit's like, there's somebody in the room, I don't want them to hear all my business, you know?
Right.
But if you're a private person in life, you're still a private person in spirit.
Okay.
If you're a quiet person, you're still a quiet person. I find the easiest spirits to read are the ones that are boisterous, that fill up a room, that they're the life of the party. They're the easiest ones to talk to because they want to talk and they want to tell you everything, right? But love is what the bridge is. Love is what makes them come in to a person like me and want to talk to whoever's in front of me. You know, that in the end, they don't care so much about me. It's more, how can I communicate to my loved one that I'm still okay and that I am watching out for them, you know?
So how do you handle other languages?
That's kind of cool when that happens. So I hear the other language, but this is not about hearing word for word what they're saying.
Right.
This is about feeling for me. So I see visions, I smell things, I hear words to a point, sometimes sounds, but usually it's feelings that come behind everything that I have to kind of translate for the person.
Okay.
So spirit, I can never predict what's going to happen. So yes, sometimes they can come in and sit next to me like they're just having a cup of tea and tell me everything. And it happens. But most often what it looks like for me is it's like I'm feeling them. I'm feeling what they want to say. Right. So if somebody comes in, they can speak a different language. I usually can tell that they have either a heavy accent or they're speaking a different language, but I can't translate the words.
Right.
But whatever they're saying, the feeling still comes through me.
Okay.
So it's like I have Google Translate in there somehow because it's just the
Spiritual Google Translate.
yeah, it's this feeling I get from what they're saying, which is how I operate most of the time anyway.
Okay. And I guess I have a lot more questions, but I know we can't talk here all night. But
Sorry.
the last one I'm going to ask, do you use this for your like personal satisfaction? Like, do you talk to loved ones? Like, do you sit there and go
That's
like,
a good question,
you know,
though.
no,
Yeah,
I know,
that's a
but
good
like,
question.
but,
Yeah,
the
that's a
other
good
thing too is like, you could, if I had this ability, I'd be like, I'm going to talk to like my great grandfather who I never met, and I'm going to like get the deets on some things or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like, can you talk to other people in history to like find those things? Like, so you use it for your own like that personal like satisfaction? Is that something?
I think that if I can't say it hasn't happened when I'm like struggling with something.
Yeah.
But I think when it comes to me, another medium told me this a long time ago, and I never forgot, that a surgeon can't operate on themselves.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And so when I have a problem, sometimes spirit can help me and give me kind of guidance, but I still have to live my human life. So you can imagine if I was somebody like I was like the oracle and I could get all the answers to everything.
Yeah.
You know, it would kind of be unfair. Like it's like I'm in this life, living this life, but I have no challenges or nothing to, you know. So I can contact loved ones, but it's different for me to contact my own.
Right.
There's a lot of emotions involved.
Could you tap into like a friend and they could kind of help you with that journey, like somebody else that's in the same business?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, like another doctor
be a
helping
smart-
another
smart-
doctor.
smart way
Yeah,
to
for
do it.
sure. Like
you
that.
can't cut your own hair type of deal, right?
Yeah.
If you're
Like-
a hairstylist.
Like that can happen. I can ask for help, but often I feel like if I was to do that, I almost feel like I'm abusing something. Like I feel like, because I'm just like everybody else and I've got to do my own thing, but I don't even think it would really work for me like all the time to just, and I know this is the confusing part about a medium because people think, well, you know everything about everybody. You can see everything. I can only see what spirit allows me to see.
Yeah.
So if there's things about my life that I'm not allowed to see because I have to experience it, I don't get to see it.
Right.
So I don't actually know what's coming for me all the time, which people think I do, but I don't. I trust my intuition. If I feel like, for instance, if you contacted me and I didn't feel good about this, I just politely say no.
Do you feel good about it now?
No, I always did. Like that's what I mean from the beginning. I never would have said yes, if I didn't want to, if I didn't feel good about doing it.
Right.
But see, that's how my intuition kind of works. I can guide myself in that way. But to get the answers to life's deepest questions, I don't have all the answers. That's the weird thing about this,
Amazing. Can you tell us if our podcast is going to go the distance?
Well, it feels pretty good right now.
We're putting our heart and soul into it. I tell you, 100%.
I feel like your heart and soul in it over a long period of time is pretty much the answer to having a successful podcast.
Thank you. That's
fair, yeah.
I think you're there.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
That's a good answer. Well, you know what? I guess we'll wrap it up there. We'll cheers to that. Laura, thank you very much. This was very,
It's
very
really nice
welcome.
meeting you. This was fun. Yeah. Very nice to
Thank
talk
you.
to you. Yeah. Okay. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Afternoon Pint. If you have an idea for the show or would like to be a part of it, email us at afternoonpint@gmail.com.